The next one we're looking at is, once again, we're still under the category. There are three terms, but now we're looking at an ax squared plus bx plus c. So it's not just as simply an x squared, there's a number in front of it. Now, most textbooks do not show the way that I teach this, so this might not be reviewed, so I'll go a little slow. So we have, our first problem we're going to do is 2x squared minus 7x minus 4. Now, when you look at this, what I want you to do is I want you to take your first coefficient, 2, and multiply it by your last coefficient, which is 4, which will give you a negative 8. I want you to keep this number in your head, because we're going to split up this middle term into 2x values that are going to be equal to negative 8. Well, when I do this, what I'm going to look for is something that's going to be compatible that I can factor out. So I know that if I took negative 8x plus 1x, I would still get 7x. So look, if I'm negative 8x, and then I subtract 1x, add 1x, that's a negative 8x, plus 1x, that's going to give me a negative 7x, isn't it? So now it's where to put it. So I'm going to be working with, let's start with the numbers negative 8x and positive 1. Well, I can set it up where I can put the 8x, first of all, bring down your 2x squared, and I can put the 8x right here, and then it would be 1x minus 4, but that wouldn't give anything with the 4 in common. So let me try it like this. Sometimes you have to play around with these. So let me do the plus x, then the minus 8x minus 4. When we do that, we see that it's still the same thing. If I combine like terms, I would still end up the same, wouldn't I? But now, working with 4 terms, I can take out what these first two have in common. So I can take out x, can't I? So, let's see if I can do this without any more bells. So I can do this, and that becomes 2x plus 1. Now, what can I factor out of this next group? It can be a negative 4, can't it? So negative 8 divided by negative 4 gives me a 2. Bring over my x. Negative 4 divided by negative 4 leaves me a positive 1. Now, if you don't remember your 4 terms, which we'll go to in a minute, you take your first term here, because it's being multiplied by everything in this parentheses, 2x plus 1, and our parentheses are identical, you're going to take that and you're going to bring it down. And then you're going to take our negative 4, which once again is being multiplied by the same terms, bring that down here, and that becomes our first set of parentheses. And now our second set of parentheses, since they're identical, you just write it once, 2x plus 1. If I FOILed this out, I would end up back to my original equation of 2x squared minus 7x minus 4. Let me go over the steps of that one more time. You take your first coefficient times the last coefficient, and you keep that number in your head, and then you have to take your middle term, divide it up so that it equals what that term is, but to compatible numbers that you can work with. Once you do that, then you can split it. You have 4 terms, and then you can factor out what you can from each, making sure that what is in parentheses is identical. Let's try another problem like that. Our next problem is 3x squared minus 5x minus 2. Once again, we're going to look at our first coefficient, which is 3, times our last coefficient, which is negative 2, which gives us negative 6. So I'm going to need to break negative 5x into negative 6. So I can do that if I have negative 6x plus 1x. That gives me negative 5x, doesn't it? So once again, we're going to rewrite this, breaking out our middle terms. So I have 3x squared, and I'm going to put the negative 6x first, just because 3 and 6 have 3 in common. So I've got plus x minus 2. So once again, I'm just going to start with my first set. What can I factor out? Start with your coefficients, 3 and 6. The greatest common factor is 3. X squared and x, the greatest common factor is x. So 3x squared divided by 3x leaves me x. Bring down my minus sign. 6 divided by 3 is 2. X divided by x is just 1. So now look. Now we have where this term is identical to this term. So what do we do in a situation like that? What you're going to do is you're going to just put a plus 1, because 1 times anything is just itself. That's why we learned all those properties, and this is the multiplicative identity. So once again, my two terms are identical. I've got my x minus 2 and my x minus 2, and they're both being multiplied by that, aren't they? So I can take this 3x, bring that down, and the plus 1, and this bracket becomes 3x plus 1. And since they're both being multiplied by x minus 2, you put that in the other parentheses, and you have solved for it. So once again, I know this is tough. I'm going to refresh it. What you need to take is your first coefficient times your last coefficient, find what that equals, and then rewrite that middle term into two terms that will still add back to that term, but make compatible numbers that we can work with. Okay, so now let's look at there are 4 terms, and we already did this when we factored the ax squared plus bx plus c. But let's go look at it. Let's take, 3x minus 6y plus 5x squared minus 10xy. So you're going to look at the terms and figure out what they have in common. So start with your first 2 terms. This may not always work. You may have to rearrange the terms in order to get them where you can factor things out and it will work. So let's try this. So I've got my greatest common factor is 3, so that would leave me x minus 6 minus 3 is 2y. Our next is, let's take out 5x. So 5x squared divided by 5x leaves us 2 minus 5 divided by 10 is 2. Our x's cancel out, 2y. This worked right off the bat. So now what I have, let's slide this up a little bit, is, remember we are looking, as you remember before, to get these two identical. So since they're identical, I can take the term outside, 3, because 3 is being multiplied by everything in there, right? So there's our 3. And our 5x is being multiplied by everything in there. So we'll take our 5x, and we're going to make these a set of parentheses all on their own. Since they're each being multiplied by what's in that set of parentheses, let's just do the next. We just have to write that down. And if we FOILed it out, we would end up right back at our original equation. That's how you factor by grouping. The very last one that I have not talked about, and I'm not going to cover in this one, but you need to know, if you have 3 terms and you cannot factor by any of the means above, you use your quadratic equation. I'm going to cover this in another video since this is getting rather long. So we'll just work on quadratics another day, and this should help you be able to factor every problem you have.